Hans Wormhat. This is a video, I'm just making it because I recently saw firsthand what NASA would call a comet. I don't see any reason to call something by that name because that conjures up these images of an ice ball flying through outer spaceland, and we know that outer space is not real. And look at this really interesting thing that I just stumbled upon. An illustration of the six-tailed great comet of 1744. It's something optical. It looks like a flashlight being shown underwater. It's the same thing with what they call shooting stars. It's not a space rock going into the atmosphere, and no, it's something optical. It reminds me of if you've ever been in a room with light shining in, and people, they put these like dangly, it's like a jewel in the window, and or a crystal or whatever, and as the crystal spins, you see it fling light off in all sorts of different directions. That's what shooting stars reminded me of. It's like a shard of light that flickers by you really quick. And I don't know, I'm not going to say that I know what these things are exactly. That's a big point of this video, is anybody who talks to you like they know exactly what's happening, they're big phonies and they're liars. And withholding judgment, not claiming to know exactly what's happening, is a big way to get outside the mind box. NASA Outer Space Fantasyland, it's a mind box that keeps your ideas stuck in a false reality. All that stuff is just nonsense. So anybody who comes and tries to talk to you about these events as if it exists inside that NASA land, you just know it's wrong. And I mean, look at this. How could anything possibly happen like this if what they tell us about comets is real? There would be no reason for it to have 6 different tails. So this enough should just debunk anything that NASA says about comets. And what I did in this video, I didn't really go in depth into anything. We'll just see. I'll read whatever I have pictures of and say what comes to mind. But a big point about whenever you're looking up anything outer space land, you just have to see these things with your eyes. You have to see it for yourself with something that's not digital. You're not having a bunch of images put together, and even your eye can be deceiving. A lot of these telescopes, scopes, it changes the way that objects look just by merely observing, and that's just a truth of science, that a lot of stuff that they teach you in science, it is true. And one of the things that they teach you is that the mere act of observing changes reality. And we definitely get that with NASA Outer Space Fantasyland stuff. Just because you can come up with a picture doesn't make that real life necessarily. Sure, you might be observing something, but you know what, and how close to real life is what you're observing. Anyways, I just picked this because look at how often they'll just admit it's an image processing technique. And spacecraft is BS. Maybe high altitude balloons, I don't know, but and they build, if outer space was real, there would be no reason to build observatories on the ground. But the best observatories, I think that they're on the ground. And of course Hubble and all that's BS. They put them up in the mountains. So images like this, they don't make any sense. There would be no reason for the tail to look like this if what they told you about comets was real life. It wouldn't work like this. They give you different reasons. They say one of the tails is this, one of the tails is this, and there might be a speck of truth to what they're saying, but they frame it in this box that is just so wrong that it's super corrupted. So just to give you an instance, they'll say stuff like, oh, we found salts in one of the tails, but we didn't find it in... Okay, that could be true. I don't know. Maybe because ionized gases, I know that different salts and different just compounds burn with different colors. So at the end of the day, there could be just a speck, a little grain of truth to the thing that they're saying, but everything out of their mouth is a bunch of BS. They'll say So they'll say something that might be based in reality about why one of the things is blue and the other one isn't. But then they frame it in this, it's 9 million miles away, it's the blah, 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 it's icy chunk, where it just clearly that's not what you're looking at. In order for you to conclude that this thing that you're looking at is an ice chunk flying through outer space land, like, that's just clearly not what you're looking at. You don't have to believe things that people tell you. If the things that people are telling you sounds like a bunch of nonsense, oh, this is an ice ball flying through a vacuum, that sounds like nonsense, and that's not what this looks like. You don't have to believe what they say just because they're an authority figure. So it doesn't really look like this. Almost. This one wasn't bad. I tried to pick some images that looked kind of what I saw the comet yesterday kind of looked. Kind of like this. But you'll never be able to capture it exactly with the photograph. And that's just a truth about imagery. And most of what you see, it's not even close. Like when you see images of Saturn, it looks nothing like what actual Saturn through just a proper telescope without any computers or any adding images together. Or if you see real images of Saturn, it looks nothing like what NASA shows you. And you get a lot of that with the comets too. Most of the images you see look nothing like what it actually looks like. This is kind of closer. Kind of looks like this. Looks like a flashlight underwater. There's waters above. Look at how much these look like comets. Now you could take this and put it in a... Seriously, you could Photoshop this and turn that into a comet really easy. And this, I picked this image because look at the hair. This is what hair should look like in 0G. But it's total mockery, this NASA stuff. You think that they would let people have their hair out like this? That would be get everywhere. And what they show you is the ISS is so cluttered. They dazzle you with their sets. It's a set. It's like a Hollywood set. And their hair is so dumb. This one has the most punchable face ever. What a witch. What a dude. Bride of Frankenstein, hairspray hair. Okay, they're laughing, cracking up because it's so stupid. This one brought like 3 different flutes, allegedly. Look. Bride of Frankenstein hair, that's not how it works. I just wanted to show this because it debunks all that stuff. This is what hair in neutral buoyancy looks like. Not like this Bride of Frankenstein stuff. It's mocking. Jeez. How NASA trains astronauts 40 feet underwater. So comets, I think that they are key. The idea that a comet looks like a flashlight underwater. The water's above. Maybe it has something to do with the waters above. I don't know, but I know what they tell me is a bunch of BS. In 2014, NASA admitted that one of their astronauts nearly drowned. And look here, the word choice. They admitted. Why would they say that? Why would they ever say NASA admitted today that an Italian... They're saying that, hey guys, this is an admission. It's water. It's scuba. Do you know what they sell you as spacewalks? It's scuba. And you absolutely... There are tons of videos out there where people have found air bubbles and all that. That's not I don't go and look for that kind of stuff. But because it's already out there. If you want to go look for bubbles when it comes to outer space stuff, go for it. You will find images and videos out there. But here, like to me, this is the type of stuff that just to me is so obvious. NASA admitted today that they wouldn't use that word if they weren't disclosing some information here. They would just say NASA said today or, reported today. I think I've said a lot. I'll just really quickly, if you want to pause and read any of these. So the reason I chose this is comets are really interesting. It seems like any old person can be the person to discover a comet. And they're very unpredictable. if they knew what they were, they wouldn't be unpredictable. We wouldn't have six-tailed comets, and then some of them have two tails, and then some of them they think that they're going to get bright, but then they don't get bright, and then some of them become surprisingly bright. They're all over the place. Who knows? And don't put yourself in the box, the NASA box, because that's BS and that's not right. And yeah, nobody can be in academia unless they are a part of that NASA Outer Space Fantasyland box. And that just shows you how rigged this place is. You physically can't go to an observatory and look at these things unless you're publishing papers about NASA Outer Space Fantasyland. Nobody who is openly, we live under a dome, the firmament, and God is real, Genesis 1 is real. Nobody who is preaching that is allowed to go use Palomar Observatory and check it out. Only if you're part of the club. So just spectacular. I don't know what they are. I don't know what it is, but I don't like the word comet. I think the word comet is terrible. Look at this Fantasyland. That's fantasy when somebody has to come and draw you a picture like this. How does that make sense? That something has an orbit like that. Orbital mechanics is such BS. They try to pretend like they can do the most spectacular, just any claim out of NASA. They have some of the most absurd claims. First, we're going to slingshot off of this, and then we're going to slingshot off of this, and then we're going to slingshot. They just totally jumped the shark with this NASA stuff. It's just not believable. They dazzle people with science. And I guess that's worth pointing out here. People will be like, oh, well, you're using a computer, and I think that this computer stuff is fallen angel tech that's being disclosed, that's just being brought to the public. I don't know exactly why. I think maybe, so now I'm just throwing stuff out here. The beast could be this AI internet, what do they call it? The cloud. Anyways, this crazy AI system. I don't believe that humans came up with computers after horse and buggy within just like a couple hundred years. No, this is some crazy stuff. And I've taken some computer classes, and it's funny when the teacher tries to explain how a computer works, they have no idea. They have no idea how this stuff works. And they blinded us with science. And it really is, they say sufficiently advanced technology, you can't discern it from magic. It's very strange. All this technology that we have just in our hands, everybody. But we don't really question it. So here they're just throwing out a bunch of numbers, roughly 2,533 years. I mean, do you really think that they know this thing? I don't know. Are they just doing a 33? And they love to take every opportunity they can to push their agendas. The estimated probability of this striking Earth and future passages through. If these comet things are so rare, which they are extremely rare, I don't know if I remember seeing the Halley whatever comet in my youth. I honestly don't remember. But so this would be like the second comet that I've ever seen. And yet this is their explanation for where water comes from. They love to just spin this tail and weave a web. They love to interlock all their things together. Oh, now this comet event is supposed to be what causes all the water to get on Earth. That doesn't make any sense. There would have to be so many of these things flying around. So they love to talk about, these things might smash into Earth, guys. This was really interesting. I didn't know this, but apparently there's a lot of comets, which to me, it looks like light shining through water, like a flashlight. It's like there's a pinprick hole in the firmament optically, not like a real one. You can't get past the firmament. But anyways, it looks like, there's just a little hole that's letting light. Maybe it's like reflected light somehow from the sun that's just coming through like a hole comes through Like light comes through a hole, That's what it looks like. That's what a lot of the stars look like. It looks like just light shining through a pinprick hole. But anyways, apparently there's a lot of these objects really close to the sun, which doesn't make any sense. If a ball of ice was really close to the sun, it would just melt and break into pieces instantly. But allegedly, how long has our solar system, which, oh my gosh, these words, I just hate them. They just trigger me every time I hear them now. How long is our solar system supposed to have been around? And yet you're telling me that there's still these little ice chunks that are orbiting really close to the sun? That doesn't make sense. You can't have a system with a really hot object and then you have a little tiny little ice fleck and it's right next to that hot object for how many millions of years? Doesn't make sense. It's because NASA Outer Space Fantasyland doesn't make sense. Comets aren't ice chunks. The sun just clearly isn't a ball. It's a disk. It looks exactly like when you look through a microscope, whatever you're looking at looks like a disk. That doesn't mean that whatever the object it is a disk. But I don't know, maybe the sun is a disk. I don't know. But the sun is not a ball of gas. If what NASA told us was real, when you look at the sun in the sky, it wouldn't have a discernible edge. It would be smudgy. It would be just a really bright spot in the sky that slowly the edge faded out. Anyways, there's so much that you could talk about why NASA doesn't match reality. So I'll just leave it at that for now. Sun grazing comets. That's an oxymoron. How is that a real thing? How do you have a sun grazing comet? So there you go. If you want to just debunk comets, just go research sun grazing comets, because that doesn't make any sense. How do you have a tiny ice thing that's really, really close to the sun? It would just evaporate instantly. It'd be gone. It wouldn't be here right now because allegedly, according to them, the solar system's been around for millions of years. So how do you have a tiny little ice chunk right next to the sun millions of years later, allegedly? Well, you don't, because it's BS. You don't live in outer space land. Nearly 1/3. Look, it just gets even crazier. Oh, so nearly 1/3 of all comets are sun grazing. That's totally contradictory to what they tell us it is. I mean, look at how crazy just this last one. But a comet with a new whatever they say it's likely to survive a passage with a final radius of 1 kilometer. What? Whatever. I don't know exactly what they're saying there, but you can go research it more if you want to. Here's what I was kind of referencing earlier with the sodium tail. I don't know. Maybe there is something about sodium something, but it has nothing to do with NASA land. And unfortunately, the gatekeepers are all up the top. Normal, regular people aren't going to be able to have access to the top-of-the-line instruments that these NASA fraudsters get. So it's not fair. It's a rigged game. That's it. Normal, natural humans, we have to do our best to have our own ideas about what these things are. We don't even have access to the type of instruments that they have access to. And so, yeah, there's probably a grain of truth to what they're saying. But as far as the whole NASA story, if somebody's presenting you an idea that's in that land, you just know it's flat out wrong. The third type of tail. Okay. This was just kind of a fantastical story. Carolyn Shoemaker and her husband Gene, both famous for co-discovering comet Shoemaker-Levy 9, were involved in a car crash after photographing the comet. Gene died in the crash, and his ashes were sent to the moon. The moon is also a disk. It's a light in the sky. You can't land there. You can't get past the firmament, and all these objects are up past the firmament. And I believe that the firmament is an optical device, just like how a microscope. When you look inside a microscope, you see an image, but you're not looking directly at the thing. You're seeing a projected image from all the lenses. So there's this thing about comets around Jupiter. How are these things getting lit up so that we can see them? How is a tiny little speck out by Jupiter getting lit up? Jupiter's not producing its own light, allegedly. But so I don't know. I don't know what this is. Very interesting, but it's certainly not ice chunks. There's Jupiter orbiting comets. Here we had another 33. Orbit is just another word I hate. There's just no such thing as gravity. Gravity's not real. Density and buoyancy, that's why things go down, not gravity. I just thought this was, I don't know. See, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Jupiter looks like some sort of fluid to me. Jupiter reminds me of microscopic images of like a biological organism. You know what I'm talking about? The slides, like the medical slides when they're looking at something organic. But it kind of also looks like a thing of coffee that somebody dumped creamer in it. I don't know what Jupiter is. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with saying I don't know. We just had some interesting numbers here. 733 when fragment G. G for like 7, masonry. 733. Waves. They talked about the waves, which made me think water, of course. The collisions generated enormous waves. One of the surprises of the impacts was the small amount of water revealed compared to prior predictions. Yep. Some predictions. So when they saw these, what they call comets, when they saw these comets that crashed into Jupiter, I don't know. They're making too many assumptions. Prove it. Prove that these are even physical objects. Maybe it's all electrical. People have pointed out the moon, what they call craters on the moon. They're clearly not impact craters. They don't go deep, and they look like corrosion. Maybe people have pointed out maybe the sun and the moon, it's like giant battery stuff. I don't know. But I love hearing theories like that more than I like hearing about NASA stuff, which I just know is wrong and is a bunch of CGI BS. But anyways, it's just funny the type of ridiculous stuff that they'll predict, and then they'll just shove it under the rug. So there were some predictions that the comets would penetrate a layer of water and create a bluish shroud over that region of Jupiter. Interesting ideas. Astronomers did not observe large amounts of water following the collisions. Okay, so then what is it? This was just more, I just wanted to show to you that they don't know what's going on. They don't know. Counterintuitively, the atmospheric temperature dropped to normal levels much more quickly at the larger impact sites than at the smaller sites. Science is full of counterintuitive stuff. They still don't know why bikes stay up when people are riding bikes. It's not conservation of angular momentum. They've tested for these different things, and they still don't know why bikes stand up when they're going. And yet people think that they can tell you down to the degree what something on Jupiter is and how far away it is and how big it is, and just from looking at light. And I think that's a big mocking thing. All this stuff is light. And all of the claims that they make about NASA Outer Spaceland, all they're doing is observing light. Do you really think that they can gather this much information from observing light? That's all they're doing, observing light. And it reminds me of the Plato cave allegory, seeing the flame, the light on the cave wall. They're selling you a story with light. And if you go use your eyes and you just think for yourself, you will never come to the same conclusion as them because it's just so obviously wrong. This just seemed fantastical, though. At smaller sites, temperatures 18 degrees Fahrenheit higher than the surroundings persist. Do you really think that they can tell you within 18 degrees what some giant gas ball super, super far away? And that's just, to me, where I don't know, maybe there is some reality to what they're telling us with maybe those spots did get hotter, but it's not a giant gas ball super, super far away. Because if it was a giant gas ball super, super far away, you wouldn't be able to tell the temperature difference of 18 degrees by just observing it from Earth. That's BS. So they contradict themselves all the time. The system doesn't make any sense. They are NASA Outer Spaceland system. But they might be hiding glimpses of truth in there. Maybe the temperature did go up at those sites. I don't know. This was really interesting. Exactly 15 years after the alleged impacts, a new black spot about the size of, see, ridiculous claims like this about the size of the Pacific Ocean. How could you corroborate something like that? These claims are outrageous. Anyways, lots of interesting things. Scientists have concluded that another impact event had occurred, but what, they didn't notice it? There was an impact, but they just didn't see it this time? How does that work? Jupiter as a cosmic vacuum cleaner. I picked this because they're going to take every opportunity. The extinction of the dinosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous. Notice how they just state these things as if it's fact. They don't allow anybody to have any other opinion. Even though dinosaurs are so obviously fake, dinosaurs are just as obviously fake as NASA Outer Spaceland is fake. But they're relentless. They are relentless with talking about their hoaxes. Anyways, I think I mostly said what I wanted to say. Google today, purple and orange are their team colors. Saturn is Satan. They got just a triangle right here. They got the children stuff. What I wanted to point out about this, notice how outer space stuff is children themed all the time. Even if outer space stuff is in some sort of adult programming, it has the childish flair to it. I think that they're just mocking. Outer space is for kids, because you're supposed to grow up and realize that it's a big joke. It's a bunch of BS. You're not supposed to be gullible. Anyways, here's the person that Google was talking about today. Their name, Dylan. They're telling you, their name is Dylan. Look at it, it's children. It's for children. Dylan Ariert. Space is for children. Don't be deceived. Just say no. No, I don't believe you. No. It's not believable. It's really not believable. Don't be gullible. And I'll just end with this, because the Bible talks about it like host, the host of heaven. And some people believe that the stars are angels. And I guess I will say, last night I did see a lot of star activity. But these days, I don't know, I think they have drones up there with lights on them. They're always flying helicopters all over the place these days. But I have seen stars move. And it's really, I've just seen it very frequently these past few years, ever since I've been awake. And it seems like every other month there's different signs in the stars in the sky. And I don't think it used to be like this. I think it's the end of days. Anyways, when I tried to look up host, it just seems like something that's being gatekept. Like, what are the host of heaven? Are they alive? Are they angels? I don't know. But when you look up host, it doesn't really talk about the angel stuff. Saba. Appointed, time, army, battle, company, host, service, waiting upon. But they don't really talk about stars. I thought this was interesting, though. Muster. I don't often make the connection of muster, like to muster an army, and then mustard is a symbol that's used often in the Bible. Like a grain of mustard that turns into a whole tree, or to muster an army. I think that's an interesting connection. So it does come, the whole idea of host does kind of come from this idea of to mass an army, the heavenly host. That's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. God bless everyone.